Scientology, a comprehensive deep dive. Beliefs, practices, theology, rituals, and core science. A factual, comprehensive guide to Scientology's foundational concepts, its practices and rituals, its organizational structure, its theology, and its place among the world's new religious movements, presented without advocacy or condemnation as a serious subject deserving serious study. IQ Productions. Contents. Introduction. How to read this guide. Part 1. L. Ron Hubbard, Founder, Life, and Legacy. Part 2. Origins, from Dianetics to Scientology. Part 3. The core philosophy, the Thetan. Part 4. The reactive mind and the analytical mind. Part 5. Engrams, the science of traumatic memory. Part 6. The tone scale, emotional states, and their significance. Part 7. The 8 dynamics, the structure of existence. Part 8. The auditing process, core practice. Part 9. The E-meter, technology and function. Part 10. The bridge to total freedom. Part 11. Clear, the state and its meaning. Part 12. Operating Thetan, the upper levels, or third cosmology, Xenu and OT3. Period 14. Study technology, how Scientologists learn. Part 15, the ethics system, conditions and formulas. Part 16, the organization, church structure. Part 17, the C organization. Part 18, Scientology's sacred texts and publications. Part 19, Scientology rituals and ceremonies. Part 20, Scientology and other religions. Part 21, legal history and controversies. Part 22, the membership experience. Part 23, Scientology's global reach and status. Part 24, the halographicity lens, evaluation, and context. Introduction. Scientology is one of the most discussed, most misunderstood, and least accurately described religious movements of the 20th century. It is simultaneously a genuinely new religious movement with a distinct theology, a sophisticated self-help system with specific psychological claims, a complex organization with significant global reach, and the subject of extensive legal controversy and public scrutiny. This guide attempts to describe it accurately, presenting its actual beliefs, practices, rituals, and organizational structure as the tradition itself presents them, alongside verified external information where relevant. This guide is neutral in its presentation and factual in its claims. Scientology is described as it is, not as its most enthusiastic advocates describe it, nor as its most severe critics describe it. Both extreme positions distort the actual phenomenon. What Scientology actually is, a complex, controversial, financially demanding new religious movement with genuine philosophical content, genuine psychological practices, genuine theological claims, and genuine documented problems, is more interesting and more useful to understand than either extreme position allows. Editorial notes for this guide. Sourcing. This guide draws on Scientology's own published materials, on court documents and regulatory filings that have entered the public record, on the work of scholars who have studied Scientology academically, and on the accounts of former members who have left the organization. Confidential materials. Some Scientology content is restricted within the organization to members who have reached specific levels. This content has entered the public record through court cases and other sources. This guide describes it factually as public information. Language. Scientology has a specific technical vocabulary. Key terms are defined when introduced. Membership claims. Scientology claims 8 to 12 million members worldwide. Independent researchers estimate the active, paying membership at considerably lower numbers. Some estimates as low as 20,000 to 50,000 active members. The gap between official claims and independent estimates is noted without resolution. L. Ron Hubbard, Founder, Life, and Legacy. Ronald Hubbard is the founder of Scientology and the sole source of its doctrine, a distinction that makes Scientology unique among major new religious movements in its complete dependency on a single author for all of its sacred content. Every practice, every belief, every organizational procedure in Scientology derives from Hubbard's published writings and recorded lectures. Early life and career. Hubbard was born in Tilden, Nebraska in 1911. He attended George Washington University briefly, was involved in early science fiction fandom in the 1930s, and became a prolific pulp fiction writer. He served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. His service record is disputed between his official biographies and military documents, a dispute that has never been definitively resolved. He was married 3 times. His second marriage was not legally dissolved when he married his third wife, creating a brief period of bigamy. To Scientology. In May 1950, Hubbard published Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, an astounding science fiction magazine, an article that became a cultural phenomenon. The book-length Dianetics followed in 1950 and became a bestseller, launching a nationwide movement of self-help groups using its methods. Hubbard established the first formal Dianetics organization in 1950. The evolution from Dianetics to Scientology occurred between 1950 and 1954, driven in part by legal and regulatory pressures on Dianetics' medical claims. Later life. Hubbard spent much of the 1960s to 1980s at sea aboard a fleet of ships with his inner circle, continuing to write and lecture. He became increasingly reclusive after 1973, spending his final years in hiding on a ranch in California. He died on January 24, 1986. His will was contested. The transfer of Scientology's leadership to David Miscavige occurred in the period surrounding his death. Hubbard's credentials, the controversy. Hubbard's official biography within Scientology presents him as a nuclear physicist, decorated war hero, world explorer, and accomplished philosopher. Independent investigation has found significant discrepancies, academic credentials. Hubbard attended George Washington University briefly and studied engineering without completing a degree. His claim to be a nuclear physicist is not supported by his academic record, military record. Military records show a service career different in significant ways from the heroic accounts and official Scientology materials, including treatment for what military doctors described as a paranoid personality at the war's end. The relevance, the discrepancy between Hubbard's official biography and documented history is relevant because Scientology's authority structure rests entirely on Hubbard's personal credibility and qualifications. The organization's response to these discrepancies has historically been to characterize documentation as forgery or enemy propaganda. The irrelevance, whether Hubbard's biography is accurate or not, does not determine whether the practices and ideas he developed are effective or useful. These are separate questions. Origins from Dianetics to Scientology. The evolution from Dianetics to Scientology is one of the most significant organizational and theological transformations in the history of American new religious movements. The progression from a self-help methodology with secular scientific claims to a full religious organization with specific spiritual theology. Dianetics, the starting point. Dianetics presented itself as a scientific discovery about the nature of the human mind and its relationship to physical and psychological well-being. Its central claim was that the human mind contains 2 systems, the analytical mind and the reactive mind. The Dianetics procedure claimed to locate and erase these engrams, producing a state of mental clarity and improved health called clear, the shift to religion. By 1952 to 1954, Hubbard had extended the Dianetics framework significantly. Past life memories began appearing in auditing sessions. The thetan emerged as the primary focus, and the framework shifted from psychology to metaphysics. In 1954, the Church of Scientology was formally established. The religious framing provided significant legal protections while also representing a genuine theological development of the system. The core philosophy, the thetan. The foundational concept of Scientology theology is the thetan, the immortal spiritual being that each person actually is. The thetan is not the body, not the mind, and not the personality as ordinarily understood. It is the essential I, the being who thinks, feels, and experiences, who has existed across countless lifetimes, and whose natural state is one of complete freedom, full awareness, and unlimited capability. The thetan, core characteristics. Immortality. The thetan does not die when the body dies. It picks up a new body at birth and continues its existence through a new lifetime. The thetan has lived through countless prior lifetimes and will continue through countless more until it achieves the state of operating thetan that frees it from this cycle. Native goodness. The thetan is fundamentally good, not sinful, not fallen, not inherently damaged. The problems that human beings experience are not the result of the thetan's essential nature. but of the accumulated weight of engrams from traumatic experiences across lifetimes that have obscured the Thetan's natural capabilities. Unlimited potential, an unimpeded Thetan has capabilities far beyond ordinary human experience, the ability to leave the body at will, to perceive across distances, to operate independently of the physical universe. These capabilities have been suppressed by accumulated engrams. Scientology's stated purpose is to restore the Thetan to its natural capabilities. Separation from body and mind. A key distinction in Scientology is between the Thetan, the body, and the mind. The Thetan is not the mind is something the Thetan has, like a tool. This distinction is central to all Scientology practice. The Scientology statement of this principle is, you are not your body, you are not your mind, you are a Thetan. This recognition that the essential self is neither body nor the ordinary contents of consciousness, but a spiritual being of enormous antiquity and potential, is the foundation from which all Scientology practice proceeds. The reactive mind and the analytical mind. Scientology posits two fundamental systems within the human mind. Systems whose relationship determines most of what human beings experience as limitation, irrationality, and suffering. The two minds, the analytical mind, the conscious, rational mind, the mind that observes, calculates, reasons, and makes decisions based on current information. The analytical mind is essentially perfect in Scientology's view. It cannot make errors. When it appears to make errors, it is because it is receiving corrupted input from the reactive mind. The reactive mind, the hidden, automatic, associative mind that operates below conscious awareness. The reactive mind consists of engrams, recorded moments of pain and unconsciousness, that are not available to ordinary conscious recall, but that exert powerful influence over behavior, perception, and physical health. How the reactive mind operates? The reactive mind operates on a principle of literal association. If a specific combination of sensory inputs was present during a painful, unconscious experience, then any future occurrence of any element of that combination can re-stimulate the engram, triggering the full emotional and physical response associated with the original painful experience, even when the current situation bears no real relationship to the original danger. The goal of Dianetics and the early levels of Scientology is the complete erasure of the reactive mind, producing the state called clear, in which no reactive mind remains and the analytical mind operates without the corrupting influence of engram restimulation. Engram's the science of traumatic memory. The engram is the foundational unit of the reactive mind, the specific mental image picture created during a moment of physical pain or emotional distress combined with unconsciousness or semi-consciousness. Engrams are stored not in the analytical mind, but in the reactive mind, where they operate below conscious awareness. What an engram contains. According to Hubbard's theory, an engram is a complete recording of every perceptic present during the moment of trauma, every sound, smell, visual impression, physical sensation, emotional state, and even the words spoken by others in the vicinity. Recorded with complete fidelity, even when the person is deeply unconscious, because the reactive mind operates as a recording device, regardless of the state of conscious awareness. How engrams work, the mechanism. Recording. When a person experiences pain or distress combined with any degree of unconsciousness, the reactive mind records the entire sensory environment of that moment as an engram. The engram is stored in a specific way, not as an ordinary memory that can be consciously accessed and reviewed, but as a compulsive, automatic program that activates when the right conditions are met. Restimulation, any element of the original engram's sensory environment, a similar sound, a similar smell, a similar physical sensation, can re-stimulate the engram in the present. When an engram is re-stimulated, the person experiences a partial or complete re-experience of the original trauma, often without understanding why they are having the reaction. Somatic effects. Engrams are held to produce not only psychological symptoms, but also physical symptoms, psychosomatic illness. Hubbard claimed that a substantial portion of human physical illness has its root in reactive mind engrams rather than in purely physical causes. Prenatal engrams. Hubbard taught that engrams can be recorded from conception. Prenatal experiences of distress, even cellular-level memories, can be recorded as engrams that affect the person throughout their life. This claim was one of the most controversial elements of Dianetics' original presentation, the tone scale emotional states and their significance. The tone scale is one of Scientology's most widely applied practical tools, a numerical scale of emotional states that Hubbard developed in Dianetics and extended significantly in later works. The tone scale assigns a specific numerical value to each emotional state, organizing them from the lowest through the middle range to the highest. The tone scale, key levels: 40, serenity of beingness, the highest tone, the natural state of the fully realized thetan. 8, exhilaration, high energy positive states. 4, enthusiasm, the highest commonly achieved human positive state. 3.5, cheerfulness, sustained positive engagement. 3, conservatism, cautious but stable positive orientation. 2.5, boredom, mild disengagement. 2, antagonism, active resistance and opposition. 1.8, pain, physical or emotional pain, active emotional reactivity. 1.1, covert hostility, hidden resentment, expressed through indirect means, identified by Hubbard as the most dangerous tone level. 1, fear, reactive fear response. 0.5, grief, emotional collapse. 0, death, complete cessation. The use of the tone scale, Scientology training, teaches practitioners to assess others' tone level from their behavior, speech, and body language, to communicate it slightly above the other person's tone level, and to be cautious about forming relationships with people chronically at low tone levels. The 8 dynamics, the structure of existence. The 8 dynamics is Hubbard's framework for understanding the structure of existence, a model that organizes all of life's drives and activities into 8 concentric spheres of concern, from the individual self at the center to infinity at the outermost boundary. The 8 dynamics. First dynamic, self, the urge toward existence as oneself, survival, individual identity, personal well-being, the individual's basic life force directed toward their own continuation. Second dynamic, creativity family, the urge toward existence through creativity, including sex in the family, the drive to create new life and to nurture and sustain creative projects of all kinds. Third dynamic, group, the urge toward existence through groups, family, tribe, team, organization, nation, the individual's participation in something larger than themselves. Fourth dynamic, mankind, the urge toward existence as humanity, the drive toward the survival and flourishing of the human species as a whole. Fifth dynamic, all life, the urge toward existence for all living things, the recognition of kinship with and responsibility toward the full web of biological life. Sixth dynamic, the material universe, the urge toward existence for the physical universe, matter, energy, space, and time. Seventh dynamic, spiritual beings, the urge toward existence as or for spiritual beings, thetans including other persons understood as spiritual beings. Eighth dynamic, infinity God, the urge toward existence as infinity, the divine, the ultimate ground of being. Scientology is deliberately vague about the 8th dynamic, leaving it to be understood by each practitioner according to their own conception of the divine. The framework's use, Scientology training uses the 8 dynamics to analyze any situation, decision, or action by asking which dynamics it affects and whether it increases or decreases survival across all affected dynamics. The auditing process, core practice. Auditing is the central practice of Scientology. The specific one-on-one session between an auditor and a pre-clear, in which the pre-clear's mental image pictures, engrams, and traumatic memories are located, examined, and processed until they lose their charge. The auditor's role. The auditor is specifically trained to follow Hubbard's auditing procedures precisely, asking specific questions from specific processes, maintaining a specific emotional neutrality, and using the E-meter to identify when a specific area of mental content is charged and when it has been discharged. The auditor does not interpret, evaluate, analyze, or advise. Their sole function is to follow the auditing procedure and to help the pre-clear locate and examine their mental image pictures. The auditing procedure. What happens? The setting, auditing, occurs in a private room with 2 chairs facing each other, a small table between them for the E-meter. The session is confidential. The RUDs, at the beginning of each session, the auditor checks specific questions to ensure the pre-clear is in the right state to audit. Not hungry, not tired, not distracted by an unhandled immediate problem. The process, the auditor runs a specific auditing process, a series of related questions designed to locate and examine a specific category of mental content. The pre-clear answers the questions, recalls specific memories, or examines specific mental image pictures as directed. The auditor watches the e-meter's needle throughout the session. Specific needle movements indicate the presence of charged mental content. When a specific item or memory produces a read, the auditor directs the pre-clear to examine it more thoroughly. The floating needle. When a specific area of mental content has been fully processed and discharged, the e-meter needle begins to float freely, moving back and forth in a wide, steady arc without being driven by any specific charge. The floating needle indicates a win, a specific area of the reactive mind that has been handled. The end of session, the auditor acknowledges the wins achieved in the session. The pre-clear is encouraged to share any realizations they had. Frequency and duration. Auditing sessions typically last 1 to 2 hours. Pre-clear progress through Scientology's Bridge to Total Freedom involves many hundreds of hours of auditing across many years. The e-meter technology and function. The electropsychometer is the primary technological instrument of Scientology auditing, a device that measures the electrical resistance of the human body, which changes in response to the emotional content of thoughts and memories. The e-meter consists of 2 metal cylinders connected to a galvanometer and display. The pre-clear holds the cans in their hands, completing a low-voltage electrical circuit while the auditor watches the meter's needle. How the e-meter works, the claimed mechanism. The basic science, the e-meter measures galvanic skin response, changes in the skin's electrical conductivity caused by subtle changes in sweat gland activity, which are influenced by emotional state. The technology is similar to the galvanic skin response measurement used in polygraph tests and in psychological research on emotional arousal. What Scientology claims the meter measures, within Scientology, the e-meter is described as measuring the mass of mental image pictures, the weight or charge of specific thoughts and memories. When the pre-clear thinks about a charged mental image picture, the increased mass causes a specific needle movement. The needle movements, auditors are trained to read specific needle movements as indicators of specific conditions. A fall indicates a read on a charged item. A floating needle indicates a release of charge. A rock slam indicates a specific type of severe mental distress. What external science says, the e-meter does measure something real. Galvanic skin response is a documented physiological phenomenon related to emotional arousal. Whether this measurement corresponds to the specific mental image pictures and engram charge described in Scientology's theory is not established by independent research. The US FDA required Scientology to include specific labeling on e-meters, stating that they have no proven therapeutic value. The meter's sacred status in Scientology. The e-meter is central to Scientology practice in a way that makes it both a practical tool and a quasi-sacred object, the instrument through which the Thetan's hidden content is made visible and accessible. The bridge to total freedom, the path through Scientology. The bridge to total freedom is Scientology's map of the practitioner's progress through the organization's services, a linear path from the beginning of Scientology study through increasingly advanced levels of auditing and training, culminating in the OT levels. The bridge, key stages. The pre-clear grades, purification rundown, a physical detoxification program involving sauna, exercise, vitamins, and niacin, designed to remove drug and environmental toxins from the body's fatty tissues, which Scientology holds can interfere with auditing. Objectives, processes. Auditing designed to bring the pre-clear into better contact with the present environment. Grade 0, communication, handling barriers to communication. Grade 1, problems, handling the capacity to recognize problems. Grade 2, relief, handling sources of unhappiness. Grade 3, freedom, handling emotional upsets. Grade 4, ability, handling fixed ideas and patterns. New era Dianetics, advanced Dianetics, auditing to erase engrams more completely. Clear, the completion of the lower bridge, the state in which the reactive mind has been fully erased. The OT levels, OTI through OT8, increasingly advanced levels addressing the Thetan situation at a cosmic scale. Cost, the bridge is expensive. Individual auditing sessions are billed at rates that vary by organization and level. Intensive auditing packages can cost thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. The complete bridge, from beginning to OT8, has been estimated to cost $250,000 to $500,000 or more over many years of membership. Clear the state and its meaning. Clear is the central milestone of the lower bridge, the state in which the practitioner's reactive mind has been fully erased, leaving only the analytical mind operating without the corrupting influence of engrams. It is the goal of Dianetics and the completion point of the lower levels of Scientology, what a clear is claimed to be. According to Hubbard's original Dianetics claims, a clear would have a perfect or near-perfect memory, significantly elevated IQ, freedom from psychosomatic illness, freedom from irrational fears and compulsions, full access to all their analytical capabilities, and generally enhanced mental and physical functioning. The 1950 Dianetics book described clear as a state of extraordinary capability. The controversy around clear claims, the specific capability claims for clears, particularly the memory and IQ claims, have never been verified by independent research. When Hubbard demonstrated Sonia Bianca as the first clear in 1950 at a public meeting in Los Angeles, audience members questioned her about physics, and she could not answer basic questions in her stated area of expertise. The specific claims made for clear have been modified over the decades. Contemporary Scientology is more measured in what it claims clear produces. Clear in contemporary Scientology. Contemporary descriptions emphasize clear as a relative, rather than absolute achievement. The clear has erased the reactive mind's content, but additional work remains to address the Thetan situation at a deeper level. Clear is the starting point for the OT levels, rather than the end point of the spiritual journey. The experience of achieving clear is described by practitioners as a powerful sense of clarity, presence, and freedom from the automatic emotional reactions that previously dominated their experience. Whether this represents the specific mechanism Scientology's theory describes, or a powerful psychological transformation through a different mechanism, is not established by external research. Past life memories, the discovery that auditing sometimes produced what appeared to be memories from past lifetimes, was one of the key factors in the transition from Dianetics to Scientology. If the Thetan has lived through countless prior lifetimes, the engrams from those lifetimes also need to be addressed, which extends the auditing process far beyond what Dianetics originally envisioned. Operating Thetan, the upper levels. Operating Thetan is the term for the Thetan operating independently of the physical body, a state of spiritual freedom and capability that Scientology's upper levels are designed to produce. The OT levels address layers of spiritual and cosmic scale factors that affect the Thetan's freedom beyond what the lower bridge addresses. The OT levels, what is publicly known, OT1, beginning exercises for the Thetan to operate more independently of the body, practices that develop the ability to be exterior to the body. OT2, addressing patterns in the reactive mind that predate this lifetime, specifically patterns that Scientology describes as implants from past life experiences. OT3, the level at which Scientology's most famous content is encountered. OT4, handling the effects of the events described in OT3. OT5, new era Dianetics for OTS, advanced auditing applied to the Thetan situation. And OT7, solo auditing. The practitioner audits themselves without an auditor on specific processes of considerable duration. OT8, the highest publicly available OT level, said to address the individual's relationship to their own identity and history across lifetimes. Available only at the Freewinds, the Sea Org cruise ship that operates as Scientology's flagship. OT9 and beyond, Hubbard wrote materials for OT9 through OT15. According to Scientology, these have not yet been released to members. The organization states they will be released when specific organizational targets are met. The space opera cosmology Xenu and OT3. OT3 is the Scientology level at which practitioners encounter the organization's most controversial cosmological narrative, a creation history story that Hubbard described as the source of a specific category of spiritual damage affecting humanity. This content, which Scientology held as strictly confidential for decades, entered the public record through court cases in the 1980s and has been widely discussed since. The Xenu narrative. According to the OT3 materials, approximately 75 million years ago, a tyrannical galactic ruler named Xenu faced an overpopulation crisis across his confederation of 76 planets. To solve this problem, Xenu rounded up billions of beings from across the confederation, transported them to Earth, and destroyed them with hydrogen bombs placed near volcanoes. The spirits of these beings were then captured, subjected to implanted false memories through a 36-day period of forced 3D movie indoctrination, and released into the Earth's atmosphere, where they clustered together in groups and attached themselves to the surviving humans. These clustered alien Thetans are held to be attached to each living human being and to be a major source of spiritual distress and limitation. OT3 and Scientology, understanding the context. Scientology's position, the OT3 materials are presented within Scientology as a significant discovery about the actual history and spiritual situation of humanity, revealed by Hubbard through his own research and presented as factual history, not allegory. Why the confidentiality? Hubbard stated that reading the OT3 materials before one is spiritually prepared would cause pneumonia or death. This claim justified the strict confidentiality maintained around the materials for decades. The scientific claims, the Xenu narrative has no support in archaeology, geology, or any other scientific discipline. The volcanic activity described would be inconsistent with actual geological records. Scientology describes OT3 as a spiritual discovery, not a physical history in some context. Scholarly interpretation. Religious scholars have noted that similar cosmological narratives appear in many ancient Gnostic traditions. Hugh Urban and other scholars have compared OT3's structure to Gnostic creation myths. For the practitioner, members typically encounter OT3 after spending years in the organization, at a cost of tens of thousands of dollars. The materials are encountered within a social and psychological context that has been specifically prepared through the lower bridge. Study technology, how Scientologists learn. Study technology is Hubbard's educational methodology, a specific approach to studying any subject that he developed and that is used throughout Scientology training and is also promoted outside Scientology through the Applied Scholastics organization. The 3 barriers to study. Study technology identifies 3 barriers that prevent learning and corresponding techniques for overcoming them. 1. The absence of mass. The student lacks the physical objects or models that correspond to what they're studying. Solution: provide or find the actual objects or build models. 2. The skipped gradient. The student has moved too quickly past a step they did not fully understand. Solution: find the point where understanding broke down and return to it. 3. The misunderstood word. The student has passed over a word they do not fully understand, leaving a conceptual gap that makes subsequent material incomprehensible. Solution: look up the word in a dictionary until it is fully understood, then restudy the material from before the misunderstood word. The primacy of definitions. Study technology places extraordinary emphasis on the precise understanding of definitions. Students are trained to stop whenever they notice a specific physical sensation, to recognize this as a sign of a misunderstood word, and to locate and define it. Usage outside Scientology. Applied Scholastics uses study technology in schools worldwide, typically without Scientology branding. The methodology's effectiveness has not been evaluated by independent peer-reviewed research. The ethics, system, conditions, and formulas. Scientology has an elaborate internal ethics system, a framework for evaluating the ethical state of a person, activity, or organization, and for specifying the required actions to improve that state. The ethics system is one of the most distinctive and most controversial aspects of Scientology's organizational culture, the conditions of existence. Hubbard defined a series of conditions, states of existence, ranging from the lowest through the middle range to the highest. It's a specific formula, a prescribed sequence of actions designed to move from that condition to a higher one. Treason, betrayal, or working against one's group. Formula, find out what you are. Enemy, active opposition. Formula, find out who you really are. Doubt, uncertainty about which side to support. Formula, specific process of investigation and decision. Liability, damage to the group through one's actions. Formula, deliver an effective blow to the enemies of the group, make up the damage, and get a petition signed by the members of the group. Non-existence, a new member or someone in an unfamiliar position. Formula, find a communication line, deliver your product, make yourself known. Danger through power, the higher conditions representing increasing effectiveness. The ethics officer. Each Scientology organization has an ethics officer who is responsible for monitoring and enforcing compliance with the ethics system, assigning conditions, requiring condition formulas to be performed, and recommending further action for serious violations. Suppressive persons and potential trouble sources. 2 additional categories in Scientology's ethics system have attracted significant external attention. Suppressive person, a person who actively works against Scientology or who is held to suppress the potential and progress of others. An SP is declared from Scientology and may be fair game, a policy that, according to documents from the 1960s, authorized specific countermeasures against declared SPS. The organization has stated that the fair game policy was officially canceled in 1968, though critics argue that the underlying approach continued. Potential trouble source: a person who is in close relationship with a suppressive person and who as a result has specific problems with their Scientology progress in their life generally. PTSEs are required to either handle or disconnect. The disconnection policy, requiring members to cut off contact with family members, friends, or others who have been declared SP or who strongly oppose Scientology, is one of the most criticized aspects of the organization's practices. The organization church structure. Scientology is organized through a complex tiered structure of organizations, with specific organizations serving different functions and different membership levels. The organizational structure. Class 5 organizations, the local and regional churches of Scientology, the organization's most members first encounter. They offer the lower bridge services through Clear. Celebrity centers, a parallel network of organizations specifically serving celebrities and artists. Flagship is the Celebrity Center International in Hollywood. Flag Service Organization, located in Clearwater, Florida, the spiritual headquarters of Scientology, offering the OT levels and advanced training. The building complex is a major presence in downtown Clearwater. Flagship Service Organization, the cruise ship MV Freewinds, which operates in the Caribbean and serves as the exclusive location for OT8. Religious Technology Center, the organization that holds the trademarks and service marks of Scientology and Dianetics, and is responsible for ensuring the standard application of Hubbard's technology. David Miscavige, the current head of Scientology, holds the title of Chairman of the Board of the RTC, Church of Scientology International, the overall management body for the network of Scientology churches. Affiliated organizations. Scientology operates numerous organizations that work under Scientology principles but without explicit Scientology branding. Narconon, Criminon, Applied Scholastics, the Way to Happiness Foundation, and others. The Sea Organization. The Sea Organization is the most dedicated membership level within Scientology, a paramilitary religious order whose members sign a billion-year contract pledging their service to Scientology across all future lifetimes. Sea Org members staff the highest levels of the Scientology hierarchy: Flag, the Freewinds, the RTC, and the various management organizations. The Sea Org, key facts. Commitment: Sea Org members sign a billion-year contract, a symbolic expression of their commitment that spans multiple lifetimes as Thetans. Living conditions: Sea Org members typically live in communal birthing, work extremely long hours, and receive minimal pay. Disconnection and family: Sea Org members who have children born during their membership face specific pressures. Children are typically not permitted to be raised in Sea Org facilities, leading to difficult choices about family structure. The Rehabilitation Project Force: Sea Org members who are found to have committed serious ethical violations or who have become unproductive are assigned to the Rehabilitation Project Force, a program of intensive manual labor, auditing, and restricted privileges that can last years. Former members describe RPF conditions in varying ways. The organization describes it as a redemptive opportunity. Leaving the Sea Org, members who leave the Sea Org before their contract is fulfilled are charged a freeloader debt, the estimated cost of all Scientology services they received as members, which must be paid before they can access further Scientology services as public members. Numbers: the Sea Org is estimated to have several thousand members worldwide. Scientology rituals and ceremonies. Scientology has developed a set of specific ceremonies and ritual practices, though these are less central to member experience than the auditing and training practices that constitute most of the organizational activity. Scientology ceremonies and rituals. The wedding ceremony. Scientology has its own wedding ceremony, written by Hubbard, conducted by an ordained Scientology minister. The ceremony emphasizes the union of two Thetans and their shared commitment to Scientology principles. The naming ceremony, for newborns, a ceremony formally welcoming the new Thetan into the family and community, differs from baptism in that it does not involve any concept of original sin or the need for cleansing. The new Thetan is welcomed as the able being they already are. The funeral ceremony. Scientology's funeral practices reflect the belief that the Thetan is not the body. The ceremony acknowledges the body's passing while celebrating the Thetan's continued existence, anticipated return in a new body. The Sunday service. Some Scientology organizations hold Sunday services, including a sermon, group processing, and community activities. The State of Clear announcement. When a member reaches the State of Clear, this is formally announced and celebrated within the organization, a significant milestone. The graduation. After completing specific training levels or auditing levels, members participate in a graduation ceremony where their completion is acknowledged by the community. Auditing is ritual. The auditing session itself functions as a ritual in the sociological sense, a specific, structured interaction with defined roles, specific implements, and a specific purpose. Scientology and other religions. Scientology's relationship to other religions is complex and has been a source of both official statements and ongoing controversy. Scientology's position on other religions. The official position: Scientology does not require members to abandon their other religious affiliations. The organization describes Scientology as complementary to other religions, providing a technology for spiritual improvement that is compatible with any religious belief. A Scientologist can be a Jew, a Christian, a Buddhist, or a Muslim, according to official Scientology statements. Hubbard's published writings express more complicated views. At various points, he described Christ as an implanted memory, heaven as a false memory installed in thetans by implant stations, and Scientology as the only path to OT. These statements are from older materials that the contemporary church does not prominently feature. In practice, upper-level Scientologists typically focus their time, money, and attention almost exclusively on Scientology, making meaningful participation in other religious communities practically difficult, regardless of official policy. Independent assessment: religious scholars generally categorize Scientology as a new religious movement with its own distinct theology, not a form of Christianity, Buddhism, or any other established tradition, but a separate religious system with its own cosmology, soteriological path, and sacred canon. Legal history and controversies. Scientology has been involved in significant legal and regulatory disputes across multiple countries since its founding. A factual summary is presented here. Key legal and regulatory history. U.S. tax exemption. The IRS revoked Scientology's tax-exempt status in 1967, finding it to be a commercial enterprise. After decades of litigation and what the IRS described as an unprecedented campaign of harassment by Scientology against IRS personnel, the IRS granted tax-exempt status to Scientology and its affiliated organizations in 1993 through a private settlement whose terms were sealed. FDA e-meter case. The FDA seized e-meters in 1963 and brought a case based on fraudulent medical claims. The case was eventually settled with Scientology agreeing to label e-meters as having no proven medical value and to use them only in religious counseling. Operation Snow White in 1977, FBI raids on Scientology offices led to the discovery of Operation Snow White, a widespread program of infiltration of U.S. government agencies and theft of documents. 11 high-ranking Scientologists were convicted of federal crimes. Fair game policy. Hubbard wrote the Fair Game Policy in 1965 to 1967, authorizing specific countermeasures against declared suppressive persons. Court documents from multiple countries have documented cases of harassment, intimidation, and legal action against critics and former members. The organization states the policy was canceled in 1968. Germany and Europe, several European countries, have investigated Scientology as a commercial enterprise rather than a religion. German courts and the German Office for the Protection of the Constitution have classified Scientology as a threat to democracy. Narconon controversies. Narconon, Scientology's drug rehabilitation network, has faced lawsuits and regulatory actions in multiple U.S. states and countries related to the effectiveness and safety of its programs. The membership experience. Understanding what it is actually like to be a Scientology member requires looking beyond both official presentations and worst-case scenario accounts to find the reality that most members experience. The member experience, what research and accounts suggest. The entry experience. Most people enter Scientology through a personality test, a free book or film, or a recommendation from a friend or family member. The initial experiences are typically positive. The communication courses and lower-level processing are described as genuinely helpful by many participants. The social dimension. The Scientology community provides a strong social support network. Members form close friendships, the organization provides social activities and community events, and the shared commitment to Scientology creates genuine bonds. This social dimension is one of the most significant factors in member retention. The financial pressure. As members progress up the bridge, financial pressure increases significantly. The high cost of advanced levels, combined with social pressure to continue, and the belief that one's spiritual progress depends on it, creates a dynamic that some members describe as coercive and others describe as their own free choice. The wins, many members, including many who later leave the organization, describe genuine positive experiences with auditing, increased clarity, resolution of specific emotional issues, significant realizations about their lives. Whether these represent the specific mechanism Scientology describes or a different psychological mechanism is not established. Leaving Scientology, particularly at higher levels, can be socially devastating. If the member has family or close friends in the organization who follow the disconnection policy, leaving means losing those relationships. The social cost of departure is a significant factor in member retention. Former members, there are thousands of former members, with widely varying experiences. Some describe deeply positive transformations, some describe profound harm, many describe a complex mixture of genuine benefit and genuine harm. The organization's critics tend to focus on the latter accounts. The organization features the former prominently. The halagricity lens evaluation and context. Scientology is one of the most genuinely new religious movements of the 20th century. Not a revival of ancient tradition, not a reform within an established religion, but a genuinely original attempt to create a complete system of spiritual development using the vocabulary and conceptual frameworks of the mid-20th century. This genuinely new quality makes it interesting to examine through the haligric lens, what Scientology gets right. Several elements of Scientology's framework resonate with what halagricity holds about sacred practice, the recognition that the practitioner's essential nature is divine and unlimited, the emphasis on practical technique rather than belief alone, the recognition that accumulated traumatic experience obscures the practitioner's natural capacity, and the systematic, progressive approach to development. What Scientology raises questions about. The financial structure of Scientology, in which spiritual development is tied to paid services, creating a commercial relationship between the practitioner's spiritual progress and the organization's revenue, is structurally unlike any ancient sacred tradition in this library. The disconnection policy, which can require practitioners to cut off family relationships, contradicts what most traditions hold about the sacred importance of family and community. The confidentiality around upper-level materials, withholding specific cosmological content until practitioners have paid significant sums for the lower levels, raises questions about informed consent that are not present in traditions where the full theological picture is available from the beginning. Scientology in the Haligric Library. Scientology represents an important phenomenon for the Haligric practitioner to understand precisely because it is a 20th century attempt to do what halagricity does in the 21st century. To synthesize multiple streams of understanding into a coherent, actionable system for the practitioner's development. Understanding both what works in that attempt and what its limitations are by studying it factually and completely is the Anakanthavada approach, holding the multiple perspectives on Scientology simultaneously and drawing from the most accurate picture they together produce. Connection to halagricity. Every tradition in the halagricity library is encountered through the filter of what it actually is, not what its most enthusiastic advocates claim, nor what its most severe critics describe. Scientology is no different. Its genuine philosophical content deserves the same honest engagement as the Asha principle in Zoroastrianism or the Anakanthavada of the Jains. Its genuine documented problems deserve the same honest acknowledgement as the historical violence committed in the name of other traditions in this library. Grand Rising. What is true for you is what you have observed yourself, and when you lose that, you have lost everything. L. Ron Hubbard from the Code of Honor. Scientology is the attempt of a specific mid-20th century mind to create a complete system of human spiritual development using the tools of its time. Like every tradition in this library, it contains genuine insight alongside genuine limitation. The Haligric practitioner who reads it factually, without the distortion of either advocacy or condemnation, will find material worth engaging with, material worth questioning, and material that illuminates, by contrast and by resonance, what the most ancient traditions have held for thousands of years. Grand Rising, personal reading series, halagricity, or IQ Productions,